Alright, I was going to make a top 50 video, like Lightning and Omega Shin and Hero Hunter, and all those, showing their top 50 key issues. Unfortunately, what I would consider my key issues, I still have, I actually counted this up, I have 179 books still out at CGC, and I'm sure some of the issues within that quantity is stuff that I would clump as my key valuable issues, so I'm going to wait and make that video another time. So what I did is I went through my boxes and I pulled out what to me were my definitive favorite comics. So this is, I couldn't even find 50 that I would say, well, I guess I could have if I spent the time, but I pulled out about 25 books that I enjoyed growing up, and that's what I'm going to show off in this video here. Once I get all that CGC stuff back, I will revisit this and I'll make the key issue one. But in the meantime, I put these kind of in order of importance to myself, and I kind of clump some of these stories as one issue. Like this Punisher 1 through 5 of the limited series with the Mike Zeck covers. I enjoy these more for the covers than the actual storyline, but just books I grew up with. Was very happy every time this was on the rack. I was able to pull one off. And I remember in art class drawing these covers over and over and over again. Just really liked them. So they make part of my top 25 favorite issues. This is Hex number 1. It's part of an 18-issue series where Jonah Hex, the cowboy, ends up in the future, and it's done by Mark Texiera. Ends up finishing with Keith Giffen art, so it's not as appealing to me, but I really enjoyed this character displaced in the future here. And I just like Jonah Hex as a character, but not so much a fan of Westerns. Alright, Aquaman 22, again a book with no internal significance to me. I just really liked the cover with the two mirrors swooping around Aquaman stuck there in the starfish. I just, as a kid, I thought this was a beautiful cover. Still like it. Working hard to collect my Aquaman run again, so I wouldn't mind getting this in higher grade. I mean, I have two of them, but they're both pretty worn. Avengers Annual 10. I mean, people are going to see this and go, oh, you like Rogue. This actually has, I have no interest in the fact that Rogue first appears in here. I just, it's Michael Golden artwork. He rarely did interiors. He did some Marvel fanfares and some really obscure Marvel books, but this was cool to see him doing, X-Men and Avenger characters. I just really liked his artwork too. I pulled this out not because of Winter Soldier, even though I really like that character. I pulled this out as a symbol of the whole Brubaker run, the return of the Winter Soldier. Just one of the most enjoyable stories I've read in a very long time, and really good artwork going along with it, so a twofold there. Justice League of America 207. Just an alternate universe group of characters. I was introduced to these guys early on, or alternate universe type characters. What book was that? I'm drawing a blank, but I like mirror images characters, and I really like the Crime Syndicate to this day. Just thought this cover again is great. It's a Perez cover. The inside of the book, I don't remember it actually being George Perez. I think it's like Herb Trimp or something that's not enjoyable, but just a huge fan of the Crime Syndicate. Also loved when the Justice League would have the Justice Society introduced, because I'm a fan of all these 9th, 10th, 11th stringer characters that at the time no one cared for. No one knew who the Huntress was or Power Girl, but I just loved the, like when Huntress was like Batman's niece on Earth, whatever, and that's the time of comics that I grew up enjoying. My dirty little vice of these 3 ROM issues. I count them all as one issue again for purposes of this video. But number 33, 34, and 35. I bought these at a Greyhound bus station when I was visiting my grandma from
the time I was living in Arizona and she was in Palm Springs, and I read these and reread these on the bus, and I thought they were the greatest thing. They came out at the exact same time as the Smurfs Limited Series and Indiana Jones 1. I remember those, and I remember the Justice League I got off the rack at the same time. But these 3 issues of ROM, sentimental to me for that reason. Captain America Annual 8, just for the cover, just for the Mike Zeck artwork on the cover. I couldn't even tell you what goes on the inside. Alright, Captain Britain is another one of my favorite characters in this incarnation. Don't know why, just really like the outfit. This is Marvel Team Up 65 and 66, the first appearance of him in the U.S. This is also the first appearance of Arcade, the X-Men villain. So it's kind of a twofer there. This is Captain Britain #1. I use this book to symbolize the whole run of Captain Britain. I'm happy to have this. I think it's like 28 issues that came out in London. Never read them. It's 28 issues where it's Jack Kirby art on the cover, and Captain Britain. This one came with a free mask. Also, #8 is like the first appearance of Betty Braddock, the Psylocke character. So kind of cool there. Pretty obscure version considering it's only in the UK when it was released. This, starting from this point on, 268 of X-Men is when Jim Lee was probably at his prime for me, doing the Psylocke transformation from the weird pink outfit character she was in New Mutants Annual 2 to the ninja character she is today. Also, just great artwork, through the Savage Land stories and Extinction Agenda and all that stuff. So I like this because it starts Jim Lee's run. He's by far my favorite artist. I couldn't find my run of it, but I would also clump in here the Hush comics. Definitely is one of my favorite books to have because, again, Jim Lee and Batman. You really can't go wrong with that unless Frank Miller's writing it. Then The Killing Joke. Just a great story again. This one's, an umpteenth printing. But Brian Bolin, interior art, rarely do you see him doing anything other than the covers. He did tons of Animal Man covers and Wonder Woman covers. Beautiful artist, but rarely does he do an entire book. And not only does he do this book, it's phenomenally written. So, Killing Joke. These two books I clumped together. New Mutants Special Edition 1 and X-Men Annual 9. They're both entirely drawn by Art Adams. Again, as you can tell, I'm influenced by the artist. I thought these stories were great. The X-Men go to Asgard. You've got Storm here wielding Thor's hammer. It's a really good story arc. X-Men 166. This is just one of the early issues of X-Men I picked up off the rack. Also, it's Paul Smith doing the art for quite a while, and this is the time to me when X-Men had very story-driven based, soap opera stories, like Kitty Pryde and Colossus always had romance issues going on. Wolverine was dealing with his troubles in Japan with Yoko, or I don't remember her name, but beautiful art, really smooth contour line. And also one of my early experiences being exposed to X-Men. I remember this came out right at the Wolverine Limited Series time, so that was, just good comics were out. Daredevil's my favorite character, hands down, and so you can't be appreciative of Daredevil without having the Born Again storyline. In reverse order is 233, the finale to it, 232, 231, 230, 229, 228, and 227. If any of you have watched the Netflix show and aren't familiar with the Daredevil character, if you're going to read any Daredevil collected series, I would read this, the Born Again one. These here, Daredevil 260 and all the issues around this, I would say, are almost definitively like my favorite story arc ever. Loved John Romita's artwork on these, and the writing on these were just phenomenal. So this one, 260, I pulled this out because it's kind of similar to Born Again, where Daredevil gets beaten down by the Kingpin, but it's his rogues gallery of villains that take him down one peg at a time. In this issue, it's a double-size issue. Typhoid Mary's like obviously the finishing villain in this, because she was the romance villain interest at the time, but all his other little street brawler villains make appearances. This issue, 268, it's just an internal struggle with Daredevil that I really liked. Again, John Romita art, same writer, I think it's Anne Heche. I'm not 100% sure. I always butcher or forget who she is. This is another one of my favorite standalone Daredevil issues. He's dealing with moral conflict with himself yet again in hell. And it just has a lot of good symbolism in it, and again, John Romita artwork. And this one, first Typhoid Mary, I really like her as a character, but this kind of also starts that John Romita run for me. So this pulled this out, double whammy in the appearance of Typhoid Mary plus the great story arc. Alright, this is the book I was trying to remember when I was talking about the Justice League. X-Men 160. This is one of the earliest X-Men I bought off the rack, and it is, again, the first kind of exposure I had where the team had a parallel version of themselves. That was really new at the time. I know, since then comics have done it a million times over, but, the first time's the best, right? So there's this exposure to this alternate team. It's also the first appearance and origin of Ileana Rasputin, Peter's daughter, or sister, who becomes Magic, and she seems to have a little bit of popularity now too. Also, I just like these demon characters, the Belasco and the Sim guy in it. So, this book has stayed with me for 25 years plus, as being one of my favorite books. Hands down. Like, if you ask me just what my favorite story is, I'll probably always pick these two issues. 141, 142 of X-Men, John Byrne artwork, Days of Future Past. Unfortunately, the movie was not even close to doing these books justice. Just phenomenal artwork, great story, and again, like, deaths of characters and stuff when you're first exposed to comics, so like even these fake future deaths or whatever, it's just such a shocking revelation to have while growing up reading them, as opposed to today when you get so desensitized to, Spider-Man's dead again, or Wolverine's dead again, And the reason I put this set as my number one pick of my favorite comics is I would say this was my gateway drug into the world of comics. Contest of Champions 1, 2, and 3. Before this stuff, I was kind of reading like Richie Rich and Archie and some Justice Leagues and some X-Men and whatever, but this gave me exposure to so many characters I had no idea about until these books, like Sunfire, and there was my Captain Britain and Iron Fist, and it had Black Panther fighting Wolverine and Daredevil versus Iron Fist there, and it's just a whole unique slew of characters. Also, this was new to me because the heroes were battling each other throughout these issues, as opposed to villains. And again, what's become commonplace today, where these characters fight each other on a daily basis, was very new at the time when I was reading this. So I thought this was just an amazing mix-up of such obscure characters that I got a chance to learn to enjoy. And probably that's the premise of why this book really came out, was kind of just a taster. But it really started me on the path of comics, which I'm still on today. The only other book, I don't have the single issues anymore, but I wanted to pull this out, my honorable mention, or clump it in as one of my stories I really enjoyed, was this, the Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is the absolute edition with the appendages and all that extra stuff in it, Alex Ross cover. Again, another story that at the time was phenomenal. You had George Perez art through the whole thing. You had the death of Supergirl, the death of Flash, and at the time it was relevant. Since then, DC has done this accordion thing 5 times with their universes, where they've had multiverses and then condensed it to a single universe and then back to multiverses and back to a single universe over and over, to where this story doesn't seem to hold as much merit as it could have. But for the time, a very great issue to be exposed to pretty much every character in the DC universe, and phenomenal art of George Perez. Anyway, that's my top favorite comics and why. I also, would like Hellboy comics. I currently don't even own any Hellboy comics in my collection, but it's something that I would like to get all the hardcovers back in and own, because they were great stories, really good pacing. So I would say that's also something that's up there. But and I'll make the video later on when I get the stuff back from CGC. And we'll have the top 50 key books in my collection then. All right, guys. Thanks for tolerating me for 15 minutes and 54 seconds, and I will talk to you later. Take care.